community over competition isn't just this cute little tagline. Live it. Live it. Because when you market the market, you're helping everyone. Welcome to the Workhorse Podcast, where we dig deep into the grit, passion, and strategy behind building a successful rural business. We're your hosts.
I'm Kendall Ballantyne, owner of Central Park Farms and marketing for farmers.
And I'm Jessica Garza, owner of Moose Valley Ranch and founder of Market in the Mountains.
This podcast is for hardworking female farmers and rural entrepreneurs who are ready to turn their dreams into thriving businesses. From deep diving business strategies that actually work to balancing farm family life and everything in between.
We're here to give you practical tools, candid insights, and a healthy dose of community support. If you're looking for women who actually cheer you on, are willing to tell you the hard truths, and that understand how much it can throw off your day when the cows get out, you're in the right spot.
This podcast is for the doers, the women who don't stay in one spot for too long, for the workhorses.
The sheer amount of time that it took for us to try to boil down the amount of experience we have on today's topic was gobsmacking.
Yes.
Serious preparation went into this because between the two of us, there is some insane amount of market experience. I run Market in the Mountains. It's a luxury Western market. Once a year on my family's ranch, I run the whole thing. No other organization is involved in the planning of it.
And I spent years selling at farmers markets. And in 2018, I was awarded Farmers Market Vendor of the Year for the province of British Columbia. Aside from growing a business that's main sales channel was selling at farmers markets, I also was a market manager of one of the province's largest markets and sat on the board for multiple of the nonprofits that bring the markets here where I am based.
It feels so lame at this point for me to tell you that I won the Rising Star Award from the Journal of Business here locally for the market after that introduction. Let's just be honest.
That was such a cool award. I've been to a lot of different things, and that was a really fun. I got to go. It was really fun. The food was great. There was champagne, cowboy hats. Only one wearing a cowboy hat was Jess, and it was amazing. It was amazing. It was so good.
Well, that's what happens when the city finally acknowledges that there's something happening outside of city limits. So regardless, that just gives you some frame of reference. A Market in the Mountains pops up in the middle of a field 5 miles from the nearest town, of which is 243 people in the last census. I'm pretty sure it's gone down since then. So no customer base. We're not downtown where people want to stroll on a Saturday morning. It's very intentional if someone drives out to the ranch. And it's that once a year, like I said, I plan all year long for that market. And in 3 years, we've grown over 300% each year in attendance. This year, we are tipping over the threshold from a normal-sized event to a special event. Yay, more permits, more insurance, costs more money to run the dang thing. It grows every year. And then, Kendall, you worked your business thousands of dollars every weekend.
Yeah, I mean, rewind to Market in the Mountains because I feel like you just skip past the fact that it is my favorite shopping experience of the entire year. My bank account prepares all year to be able to go. Thank goodness it isn't more often because I don't think my bank account would survive. It's where I do all my Christmas shopping and all my things is my favorite place to go and shop. It's so much fun. But yeah, so when it comes to our business, we grew our business pretty exclusively using that sales channel. I think it's a huge part of the reason that our business is successful as it was. How we executed at market was really important. Yeah, it ended up being, I know markets take a lot. We did 52 weeks a year of markets. At one point, we were doing 4 markets a week. Then we were able to get it down to 2 while selling more than when we were originally at 4. So we were really strategic in our marketing to be able to grow at a really high rate using our online store to help capitalize on those sales until we got to the point where really as a business, it didn't make sense for us as a family anymore with our business to be attending markets every single weekend, 52 weeks a year. Now we don't do any markets except once a year. We go to a Christmas market at a local farm that we love them. We sell wholesale to them. It's just a fun, gets an excuse to get out there. Although I'm so rusty when I go now, I'm where's our tent? I don't know where any of the stuff is because we just do once a year now. So it's, when you're every Saturday and Sunday all year round for years to now just doing the one. You feel like you can't find your cash box, you can't find your tent, none of your setup is right.
Well, and I think it's important to note, you don't ship, right? You don't ship.
No.
So Kendall's business, because again, and if you didn't catch our intro, go back and listen to it because we have two wildly different setups, businesses, business channels, all the things. But it's sort of the popular thing right now to ship a box of meat. That is
for sure. And I think we get in that thing where we get on social media, we get on Instagram, all of a sudden we're watching all these ranches that are, putting a box of meat together and shipping it across the US. And that's fantastic. And I think it's absolutely doable. And it's a great marketing strategy. I don't think it's the marketing strategy for everyone, though. I don't think everyone's
expensive.
It's wildly expensive.
Wildly.
In Canada, it's super difficult to do. You need, depending on where you are, you need USDA, different things like that. There's a lot more regulations that go into it. There's a lot more cost that goes into it. And also, to be honest, just starting an Instagram account and generating enough traffic to that Instagram channel isn't for everyone. We can give you tools to grow your social media and to become, good at converting people that you're coming, but that's just not everybody's forte. Not everybody wants to be on social media. And kind of looking at markets as a way to get in front of people, to grow customer base, so that in the future, maybe your entire sales method is going to be markets forever. And that's awesome because I'm a really big fan of them. I think they're great. Or you could use them as an incubator to be able to eventually move on to other things within your business.
I love markets for community.
Me too.
I love the fact that for a market, even ours, like the huge weekend, gets a lot of press, gets a lot of shares and sends all over the world. We sell tickets in so many different states. It still is very much a community. You have to be able to get there for the weekend. So usually you're within, I would say our normal customer base is within driving distance. It is so often that I will get bumped into at Costco from someone that recognizes me or has come out, or I'll hear from my kids' teacher, their homelink teacher will tell me that they were there. The sense of community that comes from being at a local market, I do think that there is something so incredibly special about building up your really local community.
I do too. I think that you can't beat a farmer's market for things like that. For me in my industry in agriculture, for you, it's a little bit different with the style of market you are, but that community building piece remains the same regardless of the style of market. And I think that there's something that you just can't get that through social media. And my business does almost exclusively marketing through online channels now, but I really don't think we would have grown as fast as we did or as big as we did if it hadn't been for the time that we invested in that direct person-to-person relationship building in the beginning, where people could get to know us, especially when we were a new business, when nobody really knew. I was really an underdog, first generation female farmer. I was 27. I was up against, vendors that had been doing meat production for generations and that were really ingrained in the community. I don't think I could have, not that it's competing, but I don't think I could have gotten a market share the way that I did without having that time to be able to talk to people.
It's so helpful. So we took all of that experience. We took all of the markets that Kendall was a part of, the hundreds of applications that I've gone through, the years of experience running Market in the Mountains, and we have come up with 5 ways for you to set yourself apart at markets. These will work no matter the market you are at. We've made sure of that as we talked through this, and we were like, what would we really want to tell someone? If we could sit down with you for 45 minutes and brain dump the most important things, this is what we have for you. And the first one, and it seems so obvious.
It's not so obvious.
It does seem like it is, though, but over prepare in every sense of the word, over prepare.
And I feel like that preparation starts with reading the documentation that is given to you by the market organizers. And I can say that as a vendor. And I know as a vendor, it's really easy to be like, oh, they're all the same, or I don't need to read that one, or even innocently, I was doing 4 farmers markets a week. And so it was really tough sometimes to remember what's the rules at this one or what's the rules at that one. So I actually had a printed copy of all of them in a binder that was in our trailer that we took to market, so that if there was something I was running late for a market, I could quickly go grab that, flip through and figure out, like, if I was running late because I had a flat tire on my trailer, who am I contacting so that they know I'm still coming? It was just that organization piece so that I knew all of the details in the markets that I was attending. And as a market organizer, when I was market managing, it was really obvious when vendors weren't reading those documents. And it doesn't create a good feeling as a market organizer when you're putting in so much effort. And then it feels like, the vendors are just showing up and they're not really putting in the effort to show up in the way that they need to.
But I think it starts even before that. If you're going to a market that has an application, it starts there. It truly starts from the first contact, from even just a website page that tells you like how to apply, where to find the application, what day is it due, like that simple rundown. And then you click in and you go into an application, is reading it in its entirety slowly for understanding, because so often that doesn't happen.
And that's honestly like where you're selling yourself to get into the market if you're not a regular vendor there. Like if this isn't your reapply, and even if it is your reapply, please fill it out in its entirety as if you are not new to the market.
You.
I know.
I was about to stop you.
No, because as a market manager, I used to get that too. I'm like, I know you've been here for 5 years, but I still need you to fill it out properly because it's an inundation of paperwork. It's so much to try to remember. You're putting extra on the market organizers to try to do that. But also, a lot of times market organizers will actually take snippets out of that when creating marketing assets to promote the fact that you're coming to the market. And so if you're not taking the time to put the writing in there and fill it out well and really sell yourself in that application, you're leaving potential revenue on the table. You're potentially not going to get into a market that you really want to get into. Maybe you're frustrating the market manager.
But that's that preparation, right? If you're researching what market is a good fit, what market speaks to your business, if you have over-prepared to the point that you have your list of go-tos, your goals, where you want to be, and you know why you want to be there, then take the time in that application process to really sell yourself. And I will say, I see so many applications. There is no way to remember everything. Even if we've been friends for a long time, after looking at 150 of them, numbers 150 through 200 start to blur together. And you're like, I know I've read this. I know this, but I can't figure out which one it was with. Like taking that time to really sell yourself, look at what the market is doing, not just, what you think you love and is strong and you know about your business, but get smart, get scrappy, over-prepare, go in and feed them their own words back to them. Go in and tie your stuff into what the market is doing. If you have a chance to listen to things that the market has put out there or just paying attention to their social media, however they're doing it, if you're over-prepared going into the application stage, you will never regret it, ever.
And also just kind of the assumption that people are going to remember about your business. Keep in mind, especially with specialty markets, you might have a relationship with the market organizer, but maybe there's other people helping in the background that are helping with some of that vendor selection or vendor application. You might have an organizer that gets down to it and they've got 3 of the same vendor in the same category and they can't decide and they want like an outside, fresh set of eyes on it. Well, if somebody comes in and they don't know your business, they're going to be looking at just what you wrote, just what your social media and your website looks like. And they don't have a relationship with you from previous market experience. And they're just kind of coming in with a fresh set of eyes. So it's really important that we're taking the time to fill that stuff out and give it the due respect and care that it deserves.
Once you're in, because you're going to get in, because you're going to over-prepare, you're going to dial in and have hard conversations with yourself about which markets are the right fit for you, where you're going to go. We could do a whole nother podcast on that. So if you really want to know more about that, please make sure you leave us a comment or drop it in a review if you want us to deep dive even more here. But we can't stress that enough. Prepare, prepare, prepare. Now you're in. Keep preparing.
There's a whole lot of preparing.
It is so much preparing. It's like a wedding. In that sense, it is like a wedding. You spend so much time planning out every single detail leading up to it, and then you blink and the day is over and you hope it went well.
And like, I know I speak from a farmer's market standpoint, but I find oftentimes farmer's markets are a lower price point for getting in versus a specialty market that's, a 2-day market, a one-day market. Those tend to be a higher price to get in for stall fees. Oftentimes farmers markets are a lower price point. And sometimes it feels like because it is, people just show up. Like they fill out the application, they get the thing, and they just show up for market in the morning. They set up, they just try to sell for their 4 hours, and then they leave. And I feel like that's such a disservice. It might be an expensive piece of real estate in your community to be able to pop up in a parking lot somewhere in a big city and be able to put your tent up and set up to sell. And that's a lot cheaper than setting up your own retail store, your own store on the farm or in town. And I think sometimes we forget that we need to still put in the effort to market the market before we get there, to say we're going to be get there, show up well for our business, even if it's 4 hours in a parking lot that cost us, $50 to get in. We really need to show up for our business and take responsibility for marketing that we're there.
Okay, so she just segued right into number 2, which is, because now you're prepared, you're going to prepare, you're going to give every market the attention it deserves, and then set yourself apart
by marketing the market.
Market the market. That's such a good tagline. We should trademark that.
We should.
No one steal that.
So when it came to selling our business with the farmers market and really generating the buzz around our business, I was coming into markets that already had really established vendors. So I knew I was going to have to put in a lot of headway to be able to get the attention of customers because they were already buying meat and eggs with other vendors. So when I was starting there, I knew that I didn't want to just show up that day and hope I was going to get some foot traffic. So I started looking at, I'm talking every way that I could be marketing, whether I was going into Facebook community pages in those communities and announcing that I was going to be starting at that market. It was going and engaging with the social media channels that market has, if they have one. It was, I even ran paid Facebook advertising to be able to tell people that I was going to be coming to those markets because I wanted to hit the ground running. I wanted to make sure that when people came and they saw my banner that said Central Park Farms, that they were like, oh, I've heard of her, or I've already seen her stuff. I would market other vendors, reach out to market managers and, provide content that they can use to be able to promote the fact that we're at the market and also to promote the market. It really is more than just showing up for 4 hours.
It does not go unnoticed. I can say that unequivocally as a market organizer. It does not go unnoticed who markets that market. Who markets that market and who markets their business? Because truly at the end of the day, that's what you're doing, right? If you're selling the market and getting people to the market, you're also increasing your opportunity for revenue. Yes, other people may benefit as well. Community over competition isn't just this cute little tagline, you guys. Like, live it. Live it. Because when you market the market, you're helping everyone and you're reaching people and you're up in the game here. When you market the market, those other vendors that are a part of it, those people that are watching that want to be in that market that you're in are seeing a very high standard set. And this will set yourself apart.
And honestly, I used to promote a ton of the different vendors at the market. And oftentimes for some, they may see that and think why are you spending so much of your time? I'd make sure I was at the market early and then I'd be going booth to booth and taking photos and really promoting that. I really believe deeply in the product that I sell, but I can tell you that a frozen pork chop is not getting somebody up in the snow or the rain to come to a farmer's market on a Sunday morning. But maybe they're getting up because there's fresh baked goods, there's a hot cup of coffee waiting for them, maybe there's some live music, there's maybe some other vendors that's products complement mine so that pork chop becomes a pork chop with a side of this and some of these vegetables. And we can really sell the concept of getting people up and showing up at the market more for the collective. My pork chops are pretty beautiful, but they're not just getting out of bed for that.
Well, I think you miss out on so much of the ability that if someone's already supporting another local business, if someone is already supporting another kind of niche, you talk that local food movement, you talk small business, if they're already out following another vendor that's at that market and there is cross promotion going on and there is marketing happening and people are commenting back and forth, there are attendees that are watching that will see the comments and then they're going to tap over to your profile and then they're going to want to know more. And maybe they're not interacting with you. So often we think that interaction is the only metric for whether our advertising is successful. But at the end of the day, I don't care if you like my post. If you show up to the market, I don't care that you didn't like the post about the market. I care that you saw it and you got excited because you saw 6 things you loved instead of 1, and now it's worthwhile for you to drive out.
And if you're creating that content like I used to do and tagging in the other vendors, not only are you creating that experience for your customers, but you're creating user-generated content for the other vendors to be able to reshare so that more eyes are on your account. And if they have followers that like to shop at that market, which typically they will because they're local and they're selling at a market level, then all of a sudden you're exposing your business to other shoppers that could be in that same demographic as you.
And there's so many ways to market. I think one of my favorite that I have seen, or just one that kind of stands out to me, is when a beef producer cross-promoted their beef with like the pottery maker that has the bowl and then the lady that had the Western cookbooks so that you could get this whole hostess gift complete with 2 pounds of ground burger, a cookbook, a hand-carved wooden spoon, and then the bowls to serve it in, all put together for you, all bought while you're on site. Those are the things that people love, and you go to a market, sometimes it's overwhelming. There's a lot of things happening. And if you can be directing the traffic like that from your booth to the next intentional stop, you're really creating an awesome customer experience. And they're going to want to come to your next market too.
For sure. We used to do a similar. We had like a sign that said, "What's for dinner?" And it was just laminated so that we could take a whiteboard marker and write on it. And we'd get to market. And maybe there was the pierogi vendor was there that week. And we sell cured sausages. And another one of the vendors had onions. Well, now you're putting it together for them. And there's maybe a dairy that's there that has sour cream. And you're listing like, go check out this farm because they've got this. And you're putting the meal together for them. So when they get to the front of your booth and they're not really sure, and it's a Sunday and they're going to have to go home and make dinner after they attend the market, you're giving them a dinner and a meal plan. And that's just a quick thing. And it includes the other vendors. And those other vendors are pumped to share about that same meal plan. They're coming by, you're tagging them in it, and they're more willing to share it. It's just those little things that can make such a difference instead of just showing up, putting up a tent, standing there and expecting to be able to sell.
I think that there is such a need for that. And I think that if there's one thing I could impress upon businesses that are coming to a market is to not, because so often we see it in like the last 72 hours. All of a sudden they've wrapped everything up. It's all packed in their boxes. They're ready to hit the road and head towards the market. And they realize, oh my gosh, I haven't posted anything about it. And then they post. And that's great. Don't get me wrong. That is so much better than doing nothing. It definitely helps. But as a woman in the household who sets what our schedules are, I think that we miss the boat if we don't start to think about how, especially like for us, it's a specialty market. So it's a haul, it's an event, it's a big kind of thing. It's not one that you miss one Saturday and then you pick up the next Saturday. You need to start thinking about when is my ideal customer, when is my ideal attendee that's going to be walking through the gates and I want her to see my booth and shop at my business. When is she going to start planning for that? And I need to be talking about it ahead of that, because how many times does someone need to hear about something before they purchase it? At least 7. Least 7 times. So you need to be talking about it a week ahead of when she's setting the plans to buy the tickets or to put it on the calendar so her husband doesn't forget about it, that they are going there on Saturday and that's the plan. You really got to be talking about it ahead of time. And you've got to be repetitive.
And that makes such a good point, because even for us, even with a weekly market that you can miss a market and come the next week, we pre-sold for farm pickup or for market pickup. So if I wasn't advertising the market with enough time for them to place the order, for us to pick the order and then pack it to market, it's too late. So I don't want to start talking about a Saturday market on Friday, because I want people to pre-order from our online store so I can increase order values and bring the already pre-packaged order to the market as a markup pickup location. But I need them to have that order into me by Wednesday in order to be able to hit that, which means I got to be talking about it by Tuesday at the latest in order to be able to get that going so that they're placing that pre-order with me.
Calling all small business owners, are you ready to showcase your products or services at my luxury Western market? Applications are open for Market in the Mountains, hosted by me, Moose Valley Ranch. This year, the market is September 27th and 28th, 2025 in Springdale, Washington, just a short drive from Spokane. This tiny town explodes with thousands of visitors just for this event. The Luxury Western Market offers live music, delicious food, and drinks, providing the perfect backdrop for you to connect with your ideal customers that support small businesses and value quality and craftsmanship. Don't miss this opportunity to be a part of the weekend. Applications close soon. Apply now to become a vendor at Market in the Mountains. Visit moosevalleyranch.com for more details and submit a complete application. I'm excited to showcase your passion, connect you with new customers, and can't wait to make the event unforgettable. And it does. It's hard. I get it. There are a lot of markets out there. And typically, if you're a market business, if you're in the business of going to markets, you go to a lot of them. But I think it can never be said too much. You can never share it too many times. You can never put it out there, because somebody that didn't watch your stories yesterday might now be watching it today. You can fall so easily into the trap of, I've said it a million times, I'm sure they're sick of me saying it. And in reality, the people that are watching your social media have hardly even noticed it. So when you think you're sick and tired of saying something, say it again 20 more times.
I think women in general, we feel salesy. And so I think more often than not, we think we're saying it too much and we're not saying enough. And if it feels salesy, I mean, we're business owners. We need to sell. Salesy is not a gross word to me. I'm a salesperson. That's what my job is. And I think that if it feels that way, come up with creative, different ways to say it. It doesn't have to be just come to the farmer's market every week. That's why sharing some of the market experience is a really great way to market the fact that you're going to be there without just continuously telling people to buy from you or show up at the market. There's some like creative ways that you can do it, that if you feel salesy about things and that feels uncomfortable for you, you can come up with other ways to do it.
Oh my gosh, I feel like my brain just immediately like shotguns out ideas for, you can do that sort of rainy filter with the farmer's market life and the little greater than, that shows that like farmer's market life is the best life. And it's you walking around with your cup of coffee and buying all the things. You got the bags of the beautiful like flowers and vegetables, and you're showing them without necessarily telling them. You're showing them like, you want to get up and be here on Saturday because this is what you're going to have. I think one of my greatest moments of all times that will stick with me forever is the video there is of a guy and two girls walking out of market, and he is holding a giant Western rug, and they are dressed to the nines. They are gorgeous looking. And these big old smiles on their face. And that 3 seconds can tell my customers more about what they're going to get at market than me writing endless posts saying you should come to Market in the Mountains, because I'm showing them it's an opportunity to get dressed up, to have a great time, to have that community, and to leave with really cool things that you wouldn't have otherwise. Don't underestimate the visual assets that you already have, behind the scenes videos for you to be showing, like, come pack up for market. This is a time lapse. This is what it looks like when we pack up for market. Guess what? People are going to value your prices more because they're going to see, holy crap, she schlepped how many freezers back and forth, how many boxes of jackets, how many, what did that take that they don't see? And people love that sort of voyeuristic behind the scenes.
Oh, for sure. We used to set up a tripod and set up a time lapse of getting set up for market. And other vendors at the beginning, you could tell there was like a little bit of maybe a judgment from some of them, especially the older vendors. And then they would stop judging when I had a massive lineup at my booth, because people were seeing it and they were, getting to see how we were showing up and wanted to show up and support us.
Get creative. Try different things, especially if you're going to more than one market. If it is a series of markets, a summertime market and an evening market that's going on over and over again, get creative and try different stuff. And then you can even hide like Easter eggs in your content about it, where maybe if they watched all the way through and they show up, they get a free sample pack. And that can be your way of actually measuring what the return is on your content. And I don't hate content. I love social media and I love making content, but I know a lot of people don't. And you want to know where your time is really giving you a return.
Absolutely. Like there needs to be, and we used to do that. Like when we would go to a new market, we would offer to do an Instagram takeover. Like we'd create some different stories so that the market managers could share that on their social media platforms, so that, maybe we'd create a reel that would, include them. And we'd oftentimes in the caption or something say, come out this Saturday and we'll give you blank, like some sort of something that was like a deal on something. And it was only people who were consuming our content or only the people who were opening our newsletters, so that we got a little bit of extra for them.
Yeah. And I just think there's a million ways that you can market that. There are so many different things you can do. And if you're doing nothing, challenge yourself the next time you're headed to a market to get a little creative, think outside the box, spend some time preparing a little bit of like an on-ramp for the market. It doesn't need to be a full-blown marketing plan, but how can you reach some people? How can you consistently get your messaging out there in interesting ways and encourage more people to show up at the market? And that's going to make yourself stand out, not only to the attendees, but to any other market organizers that are watching and also to other businesses.
And I know the big thing with farmers is oftentimes my feedback is, yeah, but that takes a ton of time. We cut the number of markets we attended in half. And we sold significantly more at the two that we cut our way down to. And I am positive that that happened because of the content that we were creating. So ultimately, we front-end loaded some additional work to create some of that content. And in the end, we saved ourselves so much time by only having to attend 2 markets instead of 4. Now we attend none.
I will argue that social media is inherently necessary because no one is showing up to a hayfield in the middle of nowhere unless there's some dang good content coming out about it. I always get that. I get that all the time from my family. My dad, especially, old school salesman, cold calls, can tell you all the percentages on like how unsuccessful that's going to be. And you're always on your phone. Yeah, that's how we get people out here. That's how we show them what the experience is. But once they're out there, once you're set up, once you're there at the market, you have to slay your setup. You have to.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, I sell not a beautiful product. Like, I mean, I think that my product's beautiful, but at the end of the day, like, I sell frozen meat. I sell frozen meat in chest freezers. The reason that we were able to get people interested, especially at the beginning, especially new people that were walking by, when you're selling in these big markets, you can kind of get lost in the hustle, is those different little setup things. We used to have a 1950s fridge that we had an old sign painter paint the front of, and that's where you got your eggs. We put wheels on it. We loaded that puppy in and out of the trailer every week, but people loved being able to have that feeling where they came up to our booth, they opened up the fridge, took the eggs, and it had like a Central Park Farms old mural on the front of it. People took pictures with it. It was just that thing that people wanted to be a part of and they wanted to take a picture of, and it stopped people when they were walking by. And it's those kinds of things, those little extras that you can do in your market setup to really get people to stop and pay attention.
That's what you're trying. You are competing with the people next to you. Community over competition, yes, but you have to know what is just down from the row from you. And when people are head down and going fast, what's going to grab their eye and welcome them to come over and want to see more? If your booth isn't visually interesting, you're losing customers. And that is one way to set yourself apart, is to truly nail your setup and get feedback and practice it. Prepare before you go to market, practice your setup, have it put up in your garage, have someone walk by, think of cool tie-ins, think of colors. And now I will say this I am a market that has a white tint rule. And I do that because we are in a very beautiful setting and it's the aesthetic. It's the overall aesthetic of the event. And I know that there are companies that love like their bright tint tops. If you cannot do that because some horribly mean market organizer has a white tint rule like I do, think of other ways that you can incorporate that in if that's part of your branding.
Yeah, and like just those little tiny extras. Again, like I don't have a beautiful product that's out on display, so I was constantly like, we had little matching John Deere aprons with the little yellow dingle balls on it, and like just these like little fun things, cute T-shirts with funny sayings, just
Sorry,
anything.
I think we just had a Canadianism. You back
Did
up.
I A?
No, you didn't A. What did you just say was on the apron?
Dingle balls? I mean, that might not be a Canadianism. That might be that I just, like in taxi cabs back in the day, like the funny little dingle balls that hang. It's like a trim on the outside. It's like little pom-poms.
Oh, okay. See, this is why I had to stop you because I'm going, something's getting lost in translation. You said dingle balls, and all I could think of was the brass balls that hang off of the trailer hitches.
No, pom-poms on the edge of the apron. Okay, I can see why you had to back up. maybe
I'm
that
sorry,
is a
I had to
Canadianism.
make that
There's
clear.
going to be a bunch of Canadians that are writing in their stories that is not a Canadianism. That's a Kendallism,
Okay, I'm
apparently.
sorry.
It might just be, I call them dingle balls. They're like the fabric trim that have pom-poms on them, and they were super cute, and we had matching little aprons and funny t-shirts, and it was just whatever we could do to get somebody to stop and
I
take the
formally
time to like,
apologize to all Canadians that that's a Kindleism, not a Canadianism. There are just certain
maybe
times there are terminology that does not translate across the international border between the two
like
of us.
toques.
Like toques,
Yeah.
like sea cans. I need
Mhm.
you to know how long it took me. Kendall was doing a whole series on her Instagram about sea cans, and she was talking, and it like in your brain, it should have made sense to me. And you're really struggling to understand why it's not making sense. And all of a sudden, you guys, 4 stories deep. So, like 4 minutes of listening to this about sea cans, shipping containers.
Yeah. A shipping container office. The can goes on the sea.
It makes so much sense now. But okay, so you'll catch that, I'm sure, in the podcast when I have to make sure we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah. Pom-poms.
Pom-pom.
Pom-pom, aprons, cute t-shirts with funny sayings. We'd have, bright tablecloths, all of that. If you are like a jewelry vendor, making sure that you have things at eye level and that they're displayed beautifully, taking time to figure out merchandising tips. Go and Google merchandising tips. Go to Pinterest and take a look at how people are setting up their booths. Get ideas to, hey, I really like how they did this, or, making sure that you're paying attention. If you are selling kids items, maybe keeping some things lower down at eye level of kids. All the moms are going to hate me for saying that.
I already do. I already
Sorry,
that you're sharing this tip.
Think about who the ideal customer is and what their interaction with your booth is going to be.
Yeah, because I can't say no if my kids walk into a
Yes.
booth and they've already got their grubby little hands on
Uh-huh.
your product and they're begging me for it. That's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's so true, though. And the same thing goes with just anything of visual interest. If you want someone to stop and come into your booth, there needs to be a reason to. Don't block it off. Please don't block off your booths. That makes it really hard. There is this inherent, I am not this way. I am an investigator at heart. I love a good mystery. I like to explore the dark corners of things and see what's in there. Most people do not. Most people want to be able to see as they walk by at 10 feet where they don't actually have to have a conversation with you yet, what it is that's in there, and is it worthwhile for them to come over and make small talk?
And they want to be able to see the prices.
Mm-hmm.
Put a freaking price tag on your items.
Or a price menu in your booth, yes.
Or a price menu, but like something so that they don't have to ask you how much it costs, because especially with the economy the way it is, certain people's personalities, like there is resistance to asking. I mean, I went to one of the booths at Market in the Mountains, and that person, I'm not weird about that kind of thing, and I have no problem asking, but it's a woman that I really love her products. I went in, I was like, how much is this? And she told me, and I thought it was going to be so much more money than it was for what it, like, I had no idea what the price point of that product would be. She told me, and then I was like, suddenly an item that I was not planning to buy became a present for my nephew because it was totally inside a budget, which I didn't expect. And had I been somebody who was nervous to ask, I would have walked right by. And then I told her right away, I was like, please put a sign up that says the price, because I bet people think the way that I do, that it's going to be more money than it is.
And you are always welcome. I will tell you this, you're wherever, whatever market you are at, if there is any sort of staff or someone walking around that's like in charge of it, for lack of a better word, you are always able to ask for feedback. 100%. I will 100% give you like my kind and honest opinion. If you grab me and I'm walking around Market in the Mountains and you're just like, hey, this isn't working, or like, what do you think about this? I love that because it tells me that you care about what you're doing there.
100%. I think we need to get to number 4. I think we're kind of like already on the edge of number 4.
We do this. We can't keep a secret to save our lives. Number 4, while you're at the market, hustle.
If you are able-bodied to stand in your booth and not need to sit in a chair, I recommend doing so. I recommend, that it's just a different energy when you're in your booth and you're like standing and off your phone. And don't get me wrong, I just finished telling you to make content on your phone, but like be strategic about that so that people aren't walking up and you're sitting in this like big sloppy lawn chair behind your table and your head's down and they can barely see you above the products. That's just not welcoming.
Don't make people wonder if you're open for business. If I walk in anywhere and I feel like I'm bothering you by interrupting you, I don't like, and I'm a forthright person. If I want to buy what's in there, like I'm going to come in and I am going to bother you, but I don't want to. And oftentimes I'm like, well, I could go buy something else then if you don't want my business, truthfully, because that's how it comes across. If your head is down, you're in the corner and you're not making at least eye contact. I'm not saying, please, for the love of God, do not run out the front of your booth yelling to people in the aisle. Under no circumstances is that the hustle we are talking about here. But if you aren't at least looking up and smiling and saying, let me know if you have any questions, or, whatever that first kind of line is to let them know that you are happy to help and you're just giving them space to look, have that line, have an icebreaker ready, hustle, stand up, put your dang phone down. I can tell the difference from a mile away if you are making content or if you are just scrolling, doom scrolling.
We used to have a vendor that used to sell at the market that I managed, and they had two different employees that would come. One, they alternated, and they reached out to me and they said, how come this person's sales are so terrible? I was like, because I see the top of his head every time I walk by because he's on his phone. And it was like one was killing it every week. And then on the weeks that the other employee was coming, the sales were terrible. And it's because he was literally just on his phone the whole time. It does. It absolutely changes the way people interact with your booth.
So you're going to hustle while you're there. You're going to prepare. You're going to market the market. You're going to slay your setup. You're going to hustle while you're there. And the final way to set yourself apart at a market, spoiler alert, isn't even at a market, because we're going to tell you to not stop there. Don't stop at that market.
It is so important that when you are showing up to a market, that you are thinking of the long game of how will I continue to sell to the people who have seen me, met me, interacted with me after the market is over. For me at the farm, it used to mean having an email newsletter sign-up list so that I was getting these people's email addresses so that I could continue to promote my products, promote my online store, get them to come out to a future market with me. Or when it was time to end a certain market season and I wanted them, like maybe, we did markets 52 weeks a year, but when summer season ended, we would be going to a different market location. I wanted to be able to tell those people to order online for home delivery or just kind of keep the momentum going. Also, you never know. You may be in a situation where somebody came by your booth and they loved your product, but maybe it was at a price point they weren't ready to buy in that moment, or they thought about it when they got home and they're like, dang, I wish I had bought that piece of turquoise jewelry. I mean, that's happened to me at your market a few times. I've bought after the fact.
I like to equate it to the abandoned cart recovery in person. They're there, they see what you're doing, they love it enough to click add to cart, and maybe their kids decided they really needed that plushie that was at eye level instead, and your budget says, okay, well then I'm going to pass on this new beanie hat or something like that. That is what you're doing when you're setting up this way to capture customers at the market that aren't necessarily direct sales at that market. You're recovering that sale at a later date. You can't forget how important that is.
One of my most successful markets that I used to sell at was at the beach, and it was in the morning and on a Sunday. So we would catch the people on their way to the beach and they'd be walking to the beach. I sell frozen chicken. No one's buying a frozen chicken and taking it to the beach on a sunny Sunday and spending the entire day at the beach with frozen meat. And by the time they're coming back from their beach day, we're already gone. So you wouldn't think that would be my most successful market, but we used to make tons of money through those online orders with customers because we would sell to them that we had farm pickup. So we would market it. They would grab brochures from us. They'd be getting all of these marketing materials. We'd be getting them on our email list. Our sales at those markets were low. The repeat customers, like we have customers 10 years later that still buy a ton of money from us that came from those markets.
And this is so true with custom things. If you do something that is custom and you're bringing an example with you to market, or you're bringing a certain number of options, but it's likely that someone either needs that color in a different size or wants this pattern on that thing, you need to make sure that you're not letting them walk away, passing up the opportunity for that sale just because you didn't have the exact thing that sits there on the table that they wanted that day. Have the ability to capture a deposit. Have the ability, sell a $50 custom deposit that holds your spots in the production line. We'll follow up with you after the market and be able to determine everything and get it to you within X amount of time, then you've captured that sale without truly like having higher sales numbers at the market. And you're also doing a great job of building your community.
That's what it's all about.
You're putting that much effort into being there already at this real estate. I don't care if it's free real estate, if it's a free farmer's market once a year that you just show up at, that's still a valuable experience that you've put time and effort and energy into be at. Get every single thing you can from there and turn it into a sale on the back end.
Honestly, I think that's probably one of my biggest takeaways from my market experience is just trying to look beyond that day. How do we set ourselves up better at the next market? What did we learn from the last market? How are we going to sell into the future? It's a learning process. Get a little bit better, market yourself a little bit more in the future. It's all of those things that we can do so that you're really taking advantage of the time that you're spending, because our time is money. And if you're going to go show up at a market and set yourself up, you better get the best sales you can get.
We hope that you loved and learned something from the 5 ways to set yourself apart at markets. We love teaching and sharing this experience that we've had. Markets have been such a huge part of both of our businesses, continues to be as we go on. Kendall is still doing a market. I'm still running Market in the Mountains. That's not anything that's going to go away. And truly, we hope that you take this back and figure out a way to apply it to your own business if markets are on your heart. And if you're just getting started, it is a learning curve. We've got a lot more coming on this.
Awesome. We thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with us, and we will see you next time on the Workhorse Podcast. Thank you for listening to this episode. We know there are only so many hours in the day, so we're honored you choose to spend some of your time with us. If you're one of the many rural women entrepreneurs who are struggling to find true community and step-by-step support that actually moves the needle in your business, join our signature group coaching program, the Workhorse Collective. You can find more information in the show notes of today's episode.
Together, we've set out to support and connect with women in rural business. If you found this episode valuable, we'd love it if you'd share with another woman in your circle. It would also be incredibly helpful if you would take a moment to leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and we'll catch you next time on the Workhorse Podcast.